Hello everybody and welcome to another Top 10 edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by our Patreon supporters and CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day, and our co-sponsor CardHoarder.com, offering the best inventory prices and delivery of cards from Magic Online. I am Evan Irwin. We get started each Top 10 by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Aaron Campbell.
Hey, how's it going?
Rubin Bressler.
Greetings, mortals. How are you?
Greetings, peeps. Just down here in the top 10 trenches.
Mortals is my favorite non-gendered group greeting.
Look at you. Come on, inclusion.
Oh. Who needs binary things? Who needs zeros, ones? You just float in the grays.
Right. I think a wise one once said, it takes two to make a thing go right. Isn't that the theme of our show? Am I right?
Also true.
Yeah.
And three lefts make a circle. All right.
two out of three ain't bad.
Hence our show.
Here we are. So, that said, we begin with our choice of the top comment from last week in a segment we call Honorable Mention, where Rubin will tell us who was the most luxuriant and letting us know what card we didn't choose as one of our top 10 artifact creatures. Rubin?
This week's one is actually a Twitter user, Talaria_South. Probably an adjunct professor at the Talarian Community College. My favorite artifact creature is Molten Steel Dragon from New Phyrexia. A mini Shivan dragon for any deck willing to pay the life cost and with built-in Hatred Breath. James Ryman's art tops it off, showcasing both the power and malice are nothing before the will of Phyrexia. Fire emoji, dragon head emoji, until you skull and crossbones emoji.
Wow. Well,
I was just going to say, I have to say it's been a pleasure seeing YouTube embrace the luxurious word. I'm seeing a lot of luxurious in the comments. I'm seeing some people use other adjectives. I love that that's become its own thing. So thank you, commenters.
We give triple word scores out here. That's what we do.
That's right.
For those who don't know, Molten Steel Dragon is a 2 red Phyrexian mana and 4 generic mana 4/4 rare artifact creature dragon from New Phyrexia, where red Phyrexian mana can be paid with red mana or 2 life. It has flying, and red Phyrexian mana : it gets +1/+0 until end of turn. So yes, you can just pay your life to kind of hatred out your opponent until they die. Yeah. Which is a nice, fun, 4 mana, 2 life. 4 mana, 4 life, rather. 4/4 flyer. Right. I'll take that. I'm good with that.
Absolutely.
Like, it's great because, and even back then, because it just went in every deck. You could open it, and as your new Phyrexia pack, and be like, oh, sweet, it goes in my mono white, because who cares? I'm just going to pay 4 life and 4 mana for this 4/4 flyer. Right. That's amazing. So, that said, we're going to talk about 2-card combos, and this one is a little bit weird, because there's 2 cards in every slot here. So, the way that we had our external third party look at this, because some combos can interact with different cards very similarly, if you will. So the rules set up were if either of the cards are in another slot, they are marked as same or higher as a result. So you may have Kiki G plus X plus Y.
Right, that explains some of my list. All right,
because there's definitely multiple cards that could be in certain spots on this list.
Right, because I got 5. I have 5 hires, and I didn't realize. Yeah, I'm going to be sitting on the bench a little bit this week, but that explains it.
Yeah, well, that's just the idea that I think most of these combos are very similar. But,
sure.
And some even are just kind of generic, right? For me, I was like, well, I can't really choose, something like Umezawa Jitte plus creature. Like,
right.
That's silly.
Verdurant Enchantress Ancestral Mask, right?
Sure. Scratch off my number 5 there.
Themes and motifs and interactions are not the same as combos.
Exactly. Right? These are combo-y comboist. So, that said, congratulations to our honorable mention winner, and thanks to CoolStuffInc.com for the $50 gift certificate that will be coming to you. Hit us up on one of our social channels so I can get you the prize that you have earned.
Probably Twitter, seeing as that's where the thing was.
Probably Twitter. Hit us up on Twitter. I love Twitter. Okay. That said, we're going to start at number 10. Now, Rubin, you don't have one. Is that right?
Correct. Well, I have one, but it's higher on someone else's list.
You do, but you don't. All right, cool. So, I know, right? So I will go ahead and I'll kick it off. Because this is a combo that could certainly see a lot of different types of interactions. There's a few creatures that interact with it automatically, but these 2 things are enchantments. And these enchantments, that when they live together, all you need is the interaction of one of them, the activation of one of them, to let the other one let it go off, essentially. Because, and they're only 3-mana enchantments, and this is a good old-fashioned, my gosh, $8 rare. One of them being from Stronghold in 8th edition, the only time they were printed, along with another good old-fashioned common that started in Shadowmoor. Because when you have a creature, and you put Presence of Gond on it, Presence of Gond is a green and 2 generic mana, common aura, an enchantment aura, that says the enchanted creature has tap, create a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token. Okay, cool. There's this blue enchantment that's for a blue and 2 generic mana called Intruder Alarm. And Intruder Alarm says creatures don't untap during their untap steps, but whenever a creature comes into play, untap all creatures. So if you see what happens there, I made a creature, and then I untapped it because all the creatures untapped. Then I made a creature, and creatures untapped because all the creatures. And then you do that, and you do that, and you do that, and you have infinite creatures, infinite elf warriors. Yay! High five! Run around the room. Tell your neighbors. Tell your friends. Intruder Alarm, Presence of Gone is awesome.
You love Intruder Alarm. Like, I feel like I've seen you gush about, like, I feel like I've seen you during certain spoiler seasons trot out Intruder Alarm once or twice in the past. Of, guys, Intruder Alarm, Intruder Alarm. I'm going, Evan, what is with you in this card?
Look, peek him out, find basement, come on.
It is the comboiest combo card. There are so many things that combo with Intruder Alarm. I remember Sprout Swarm decks were a thing. There are so many things that you can do with Intruder Alarm. I know Imperious Perfect. They put Intruder Alarm in Elves every once in a while. It is legal in Modern. And so there are just so many combos. Presence of Gond itself also has a couple combos, and being a common, that means that you can play things like Midnight Guard in Pauper to combo off as well. And so yeah, both of them are both ripe for combos, and together, two great tastes that taste great together.
That's how it's supposed to work. I mean, Intruder Alarm, yes. First of all, it seriously has only been printed twice. I'm kind of mine's a little blown here. They only put it in 8th edition in Stronghold. That's it. Like, Presence of Gone has gotten 4 printings, and that card's just like a little dorky enchantment that makes a thing. All right.
Sure.
That's weird. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Either way, Aaron, what's your number 10?
Speaking of enchantments, the only thing better than having an enchantment is having everything be an enchantment. And the only thing better than that is destroying everything because it's an enchantment. The first time I encountered this combo was in Legacy, and I just could not believe what I was seeing because of the sheer magnitude of this combo and how much destruction it was able to wreak on our board states. My number 10 is the combo of Enchanted Evening and Patrician Scorn. Yep. So Enchanted Evening is an enchantment that costs 3 and then 2 hybrid mana, either 2 white, 2 blue, or some combination of that, and it is an enchantment. And it says that all permanents are enchantments in addition to their other types. Patrician Scorn is an instant, 3 and a white. If you cast another white spell this turn, you can cast Patrician Scorn for free. And it says destroy all enchantments. So you drop the Enchanted Evening, everything is an enchantment. Lands, everything, and then you drop Patrician Scorn, and then you literally just destroy the board. Yep. This has been used in decks with Greater Gargadon, so in response to the Patrician Scorn, you can sacrifice everything, and so when it's all said and done, you'll have this really big Gargadon, and you can just sort of get there. It also kind of has a Death Cloud feel, where you can maybe play some kitchen things, or do something to where you have something that will survive the onslaught, and then you will destroy the opponent, and this combo is just devastating, and I have a great appreciation for Patrician Scorn as a modern ad nauseum player. We sometimes use it to destroy Leyline of Sanctity, but I just had never seen it used in such a fashion before, and it's just awe-inspiring.
It's just one goes in the other. It's a perfect 1, 2.
Perfect. It's a 5 mana. It's a 5 mana obliterate. It's absolutely insane, and it's just absolutely crazy. This combo was legal in Standard for a little bit. It was not highly played because the best decks at the time had counterspells in them. Hello Fairies, Hello Revelark,
Hello Cryptic Command.
Hello, Cryptic Command, yeah. But, again, this is just a spectacular combo. Also, Fracturing Gust, an interesting one with Enchanted Evening, just gain 1 billion life. Yeah, there's just a ton of fun with these combos. Enchanted Evening as a card is just fascinating.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so sweet. Again, it's just like I play one, which paid for the other one.
Right.
It's just, it doesn't target. It's just amazing. You're just like, Enchanted Evening, what? Yeah, sure, whatever, it's fine. And then you're like, no mana, kill you, everything. And I'm like, oh, God. Yeah. That's fantastic. That's delicious. That is a chef's kiss right there. Moving on here to number 9. Rubin, you still...
Another higher. I'm just going to sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. So let's keep going.
Well, so am I, because I also have a higher at number 9.
Aaron, save it from
this.
ourselves.
Let's do this.
There we go.
All right, so my number 9 is made possible by a creature from Dark Ascension, for which I think a lot of busted combos are possible. I know I've certainly seen some EDH decks that promise that if you play this card, you can wipe the board pretty quickly after that. There's all sorts of broken things you can do with this card. So I really had to narrow down who I wanted or what I wanted the second piece to be. And I had to choose a card that used to be a vintage all-star, but has sort of been forced to sit on the bench lately because of Walking Ballista. My number 9 is the combo of Machias the Unhallowed and Triskelion. So Machias the Unhallowed is 3/3 black. It's a legendary creature, zombie cleric, 5/5 intimidates. Whenever a human deals damage to you, destroy it. Other non-human creatures you control get +1/+1 and have undying, meaning that if they die, they come back to the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it. Triskelion is a 6-mana artifact creature construct, 1/1. It enters the battlefield with 3 +1/+1 counters on it, and you remove a +1/+1 counter from Triskelion to do 1 damage to a creature or player. So basically, you remove some of the counters to deal damage to itself, and then you spend like 1 or 2 counters dealing damage to something else, and then Machias brings it back with a +1/+1 counter on it from the Undying, and you basically can keep just doing this until you kill whatever it is you're trying to kill. And I think this is fantastic. I love seeing Machias do busted things. I love seeing Triskelion have a day in the sun, because obviously now it's all about Walking Ballista. But this is just a really neat little loop, and I love that this exists.
That's awesome. I asked about this one a lot around the internet for people who are just like, this is like my favorite thing to do. I do Machias and then think, man, you died, everything dies. It's great. We're going to do a lot of this tonight.
There are so many combos with Triskelion. My favorite being the old Tooth and Nail standard deck with Uyo Silent Prophet and Mephidros Vampire.
Wow.
This is like an 85 card combo or a 1 card combo if you think Tooth and Nail. But basically, the Mephidros Vampire and the Triskelion would combo together, but you needed the Uyo to copy the Tooth and Nail. It was really complicated. But that was a ton of fun. Triskelion has been a staple of combo type stuff, as well as just like the stacks type stuff for decades.
I think my favorite is the Triskelion sort of art upgrade from the original like antiquities, like 1940s.
Trash can Lost in Space Monster,
right?
Yeah.
Danger Will Robinson to like Mirrodin, where just like it's an evil thing that's like piercing through someone's chest.
It kind of reminds me of the bugs from Starship Troopers. Like whenever I look at that version, that's what I think of. Just specifically with the big talon.
It's also the scythe monster that is in Phantom Menace during that battle pit scene, or no, Clone Wars. One of the two. I don't know. Okay. They all run together for me.
They're all terrible. It's fine.
From the prequels. We'll call them the prequels.
Prequels, not great.
That's my favorite. Although, to be fair, Battle Pit Padme is my favorite Padme. So.
Oh, man.
Well, you know, sometimes those movies are coarse and they just get everywhere.
Well.
Number 8.
I hate those movies. They get everywhere.
My number 8 here, I'll kick off with is a really awesome 2-card combo. This is one of the brutal combos. This is one of those that like it takes you and it takes your hopes and your dreams and it shows them to you and then it crushes them up and it throws them away.
My favorite.
Over and over, this combo will punish you, and over, this card takes a really super cool, now a $60 plus card. Wow, it just kind of still blows my mind. And an old school card from Antiquities that I just happen to have 4 different types of artworks inside the Antiquities printing. You play Crucible of Worlds. Okay? Crucible of Worlds is a 3 generic mana, rare from 5th Dawn, currently again $60, that says you may play land cards from your graveyard. Now, in Antiquities, there was this one land, and all it did was tap for a colorless mana, or tap, sacrifice it to destroy target land. Crucible of Worlds plus Strip Mine is bad times for your opponent. Just kill it. Next turn, kill it. Next turn, kill it. I mean, this one has just been put in different things in different ways, just almost as like a fail-safe type thing. There's a reason that you can only play one Strip Mine, and in silly recursion and stuff like this. And obviously, Crucible of Worlds and Wasteland is cute and all, but Strip Mine guarantees 100% you're killing lands. And it's just a brutal, brutal combo that will just choke the life out of your opponent.
Yeah, and we're seeing it kind of move into different formats with the printing of Ramanop Excavator. You know, having a Crucible on a stick is very powerful. You know, there are decks that are playing Ramanop that wouldn't really have room for Crucible, or it just doesn't really fit in with their strategy. And so, yeah, being able to consistently do that, especially in a format with greedy mana bases, it's a really great way to punish them. And yeah, a card is great. And Crucible is a card that just desperately needs a reprint. Like, every time I hear that, it's like, why is this not reprinted more? Because, which is funny, because I think it's the most popular. It's a $60 card that just doesn't really see a lot of play. It's like a one of, and like sideboards and even main decks run only like one, so it doesn't see a crazy amount of play, but yet it never seems to go down in price. And
it would have been an easy inclusion in Masters 25.
Yes.
How many times can we talk about Tree of Redemption? You know, Tree of Sad Redemption, and you know, anything would have been good there. But Crucible Worlds again. 5th Dawn, 10th edition, made a Judge Foil and a Kaladesh Invention, and that's it. That's the whole caboodles of Crucibles in the world. That's nuts.
Wow, nice.
Yeah. So, Rubin, do you have a number 8?
I do. I have a number 8, and it is #on brand, everybody. So the fact that I said that should clue you into what it is. It's Painter Grindstone.
Yeah, it's
Painter Grindstone. How could I not have Painter Grindstone somewhere on my list?
I'm surprised it's not higher on your list.
True.
No, I mean, so first of all, here's what the cards do. Painter's Servant is a 2 colorless mana, 2 generic mana, 1/3 artifact creature Scarecrow, originally from the Shadowmoor expansion.
I didn't know it was a Scarecrow. Is it a Scarecrow?
It is. It's a Scarecrow.
Oh, I didn't know
it's banned in Commander, though, so you can't Reaper King with it.
Shots.
Enters the battlefield. Choose.
Oh, no, we went straight Tates.
We went from Painter Servant to Potato Servant.
Oh, Tater Servant, no. Quickly, to the Photoshops, please. Anyone. Oh, God.
Rubin's just going to paint the world with potatoes.
Rubin's invitational card is the Tater Servant.
Did you see that somebody on Facebook had suggested that when we do our next token run that we do potato sapperlings for Rubin?
Can't make sapperlings. Those are copyrighted.
Oh, damn.
That is actually a thing. I see, Rubin.
Me?
Potato servos, maybe. That would be cool. Like little potatoes with like robotic arms.
Robo potatoes?
Robo potatoes? That idea. Am I back?
You're back, buddy. Go for it.
All right, sweet. So Painter Servant originally was a rare from Shadowmoor, artifact creature Scarecrow. 2 colorless mana for a 1/3. I guess 2 generic mana for a 1/3. As it enters the battlefield, choose a color. All cards that aren't on the battlefield, spells and permanents, are the chosen color in addition to their other colors. And then Grindstone was originally from, I have the Tempest remastered version here. I believe it was originally from Tempest. Was it originally from Tempest? I thought it might have been Stronghold, but Tempest. Originally from Tempest. 1 mana artifact. It's a rare in that expansion, Mythic in the Tempest remastered. Pay 3 colorless and tap, target player puts the top 2 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. Here's the key part. If both of those cards share a color, repeat this process. Some of my best finishes in any tournaments have been Painter Grindstone combo, which of course turns all cards in your opponent's library into the same color and then decks them, at which point they lose on their draw step because they can't draw from an empty library. And that's only 6 mana. 2 mana for the Painter Grindstone, 1 mana for the 2 mana for the Painter, 1 mana for the Grindstone, 3 mana to activate. 1 + 2 + 3 = 6. I've won on turn 1 a couple of times. I've won on turn 2 lots of times. I've top 32 to Grand Prix with this deck. Almost was able to draw into top 8 in Chicago 2006 when I had 4 copies of Active Volcano in my deck, which was awesome. This combo is great. I love it. It's starting to see play in, there's a mono blue Belcher deck that I just recently saw. It sees play as a finisher in some stacks variants of all shapes and colors. It's so powerful that Painter Servant is banned in Commander, for example. And so it's just a ton of fun. Painter Servant's now, of course, a masterpiece as well. It's #on brand.
It's so powerful that decks will even run a 1 of Blightsteel Colossus or even just a 1 of Progenitus. Just something to their matchup is so horrible that if God forbid you ever suspect that deck, you will sometimes just pack a one of sideboard card that you have no intention of ever casting, but just something that will give you that shuffle trigger so that you can survive that and still keep playing. Like, it's that scary. It's a horrible matchup for Dredge to basically just pack it up. Yeah, it's incredibly scary. And I think of you every time it happens. I'm like, that's some Rubin Wrestler stuff right there.
Yep.
Don't you just, doesn't the game just lock at that point? If I have a Darksteel Colossus?
If you have a Darksteel Colossus, you shuffle it back into a 1-card library, and then you draw it on your turn. So if you have a way to discard it, then sure. The real killer are the Eldrazi's that shuffle your whole deck back in.
By that I mean the Eldrazi's, like the Eldrazi's that shuffle the entire deck. Doesn't that just lock the game at that point?
Not necessarily. I mean, if I have a Tormod's Crypt, I can respond to the trigger. If I have a Rest in Peace, then it never gets shuffled back in. Or I just have to kill you in some other way, like miscellaneous beats. There are ways to, exactly, miscellaneous Imperial Recruiter, Simian Spirit Guide beats for the win. But you do what you can to get by, and this combo, 95% of the time, it works every time.
Right, but what I'm saying is, just to be, for just my own edification, if you don't have Tormod's Crypt or Rest in Peace or whatever, and then the combo
doesn't work. Correct.
And the game is locked. Is that correct?
Well, the game's not locked. It's just, you activate, you mill the entire deck, you can't mill any more cards, then Emrakul triggers and shuffles back in, and then it's your opponent's turn with a full deck again.
Oh, I see. So it doesn't just keep going. It's just
correct. It's a trigger that goes on the stack, so it does not lock the game.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's cool. So, but absolutely on brand. And honestly, I was the same with Aaron. I'm like, wow, we're down here at number 8.
We got some historical combos that are higher on my list. You guys know that I prefer clout. I like history and wins and stuff like that. This is a legacy only combo. So
all right,
I'm scared to see what you have. Like, if this is low, I'm afraid of what you have higher.
I know, right?
So speaking of clout, this was a combo that was recently unbanned in Modern. It had been banned for quite a while, and Wizards has slowly but surely been kind of dipping their toe into the unbanning waters, and this was something that was recently unbanned. I don't know if it was unbanned around the same time as Grave Troll, but just again, they've been making an effort to try new things, and they unbanned one half of this combo, and some people had tried to make it work. There was some question as to, would this make a dent in Modern? Would it be safe? And so far, it seems like it's pretty safe. I don't think it's really put up any reasonable results. I have this as a combo in my Sharoom EDH deck, and it feels fantastic when you're able to kind of go off with it. My number 8 is a combination of Thopter Foundry and Sword of the Meek. So Thopter Foundry is a hybrid mana, either a 1 and a black and then a blue. It's an artifact. You can pay 1 colorless and sacrifice a non-token artifact to create a 1/1 blue Thopter artifact creature token with flying, and then you gain 1 life. Sword of the Meek is the card I was referring to that was recently unbanned. It was 2 colorless artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+2, equipped 2 colorless. Whenever a 1/1 creature comes into play under your control, you may return Sword of the Meek from your graveyard to play and then attach it to that creature. So as long as you have the mana, you can essentially just keep sacrificing Sword of the Meek, which will create a Thopter, which will bring Sword of the Meek back, and before you know it, you have gained a bunch of life and have several Thopters in play. And I really like this combo. I think it's fun. It's not as broken as some things you can do even in Modern currently, but I'm really happy that people are allowed to play with it in Modern. I love it as an EDH combo, and it's just fun. I really enjoy it.
Sword of the Meek is a $6 uncommon.
Yeah.
Printed one time in Future Sight and never again.
Sight, yeah.
Whereas,
packs of Future Sight are just value. If you got a box of Future Sight in your closet, you're a billionaire.
It's just so good. I mean, Thopter Foundry was reprinted in LR Reborn, but also in Commander 2013 and 2016. So with Sword of the Meek only being found there, and if you want to run this super cool combo, you're going to play 4. This is one of those combos you don't play 2 Sword of the Meek or whatever. You go the full boat. Got to make sure you have your pieces, and it's super great. And
absolutely,
when they unbanned it, was like, oh my god, it's like busted, right? And it like technically
and then
it is,
one uses
but it's not. Like it is, but it ain't.
Right.
Kind of.
Yeah, the format adapted, and this particular one was not an invasive species to Modern, so that's good.
So we're gonna move on here to number 7. Now I have a good old fashioned, just a straightforward. This was direct from 1996 when I learned how to play.
13.
Thank you. When I learned how to play Magic, I was about 15 in that summer, and this was just one of the classic openings. This was the classic opening to hands back in the day, and in fact, it was such a classic opening. It was such the way that it almost warped the color around its opening that it really changed how Magic was designed, and when they stopped making some of these cards, it really changed how that color identity was seen. Because when you'd play back in the day, you'd play turn 1 Swamp, and then you'd tap, and you'd play Dark Ritual. And then you would play Hypnotic Spectre. That's it. Oof. Ritual Hippie. That's what you do. That's that. Now, what you're supposed to do is Mountain Bolt or Plains Swords to Plowshares. And if that didn't happen, you're in for a bad time. Because Dark Ritual, if you don't know, is a 1 black mana instant that has been reprinted about 327 times. And it just adds 3 black to your mana pool. That's what it does for 1 black. Now, the other half is Hypnotic Spectre, a bit more interesting, and really shows you like what they were thinking back in the day, which wasn't a whole lot, because Hypnotic Spectre is 2 black and a generic mana for a 2/2 rare specter that has flying. And whenever it deals damage to an opponent, that player discards a card at random. Random. So if you get it off turn 1, you hit them turn 2, and you just so happen to snag their second land, that game could just be over.
Oh, yeah.
And I've seen it happen. Yeah. That was a thing at your Friday Night Magic was Ritual Hippie Go. And you're like, oh, my God, please let there be a Swords on Top. And you're like, Swords on Top, woo! Because you could just end your game right there. Him the Turok was a card. So you could turn 1 Ritual Hippie, turn 2 him, hit you with the Hippie. You're losing 3 cards at random. It was brutal, folks. It was really brutal. So that was the idea that Ritual into something, Ritual into Negator, like that was a thing that kept holding Wizards back from designing really good black 3-drops or designing really black in a way at all, because you Ritual and suddenly you have 5 mana on turn 1. That's a problem. Where nowadays it's not, because they don't do that anymore, and for good reason.
Right.
Well, even then it was like, we had, so Dark Ritual happened, and then it never really, we had Cabal Ritual, so that was a thing.
Which was fine.
And then, they kind of gave Red, like, the Desperate Rituals and the things like that, but it was like, you could, you look at the timeline, and it's like, Black was not allowed to have those things, like, they let Red have those things, but clearly not Black, and I think that, like you said, it kind of says something to that fear of the last time we let Black have this, bad things happened, and now we just don't really see Rituals at all anymore, but I think it's telling that they felt comfortable enough to give them back to Red, but they won't go anywhere near giving them to Black anymore.
Right. And the last time we had 1 mana ramp on this scale was Rite of Flame, which not only was dominant in Standard in the hands of Dragonstorm, but also dominant in Modern to the point where it got banned. So it's just a dangerous precedent to set, and Dark Ritual being the most powerful of them all.
It was just one of those things that when I came back to Magic, because I left at Stronghold and I came back in Mirrodin, when I came back to Magic, I was like, what do you mean there's no Dark Ritual? That's like what Black does is Dark Ritual. You know what I mean? Like
I wish.
It defined the entire color for me when I first started playing Magic was Dark Ritual. Yeah. Rubin, what's your number 7?
My number 7, I don't know if you can believe this, but it's higher on someone else's list.
Yes! Aaron, what's your number 7?
There are many ways with which to win a game. You can take your opponent down to 0 life. You can give them 10 poison counters. You can make them draw the last card in their deck, a la the Painter's Servant combo, like Rubin mentioned. And then there's winning the game simply because they will never have another turn. Or more specifically, that you will have their turns. And they just won't ever play anymore. And so if they're smart, they might as well just scoop it up. My number 7 is the combo of Mindslaver and Academy Ruins. Nice. So Mindslaver is 6 colorless mana. It's a legendary artifact, and you can pay 4 colorless mana and tap it, sacrifice it. You control target player during that player's next turn. Academy Ruins is a legendary land where you can tap it, either add a colorless mana to your mana pool, or you can pay 1 in a blue to tap it, to put an artifact card from your graveyard on top of your library. So you basically have a loop of, I'm going to control your turn, I will sacrifice the Mindslaver, and then I'm going to bring the Mindslaver back, and you will never get another turn. This is a very common win condition in Mono Blue-Tron. This is typically how they prefer to win the game, as opposed to Red Green-Tron that prefers to get you with Ulamogs and Karns and things of that nature. The card is just wild, and it's a really unique kind of feel bad. I know we kind of experienced this when the new Emrakul was released. There were a lot of players in Standard who, frankly, and maybe even some players just in older formats who'd never been on the end of this, and I think that might have contributed to the feelings around Emrakul and it being a very polarizing card. Is once you've been Mindslaver, it just doesn't feel good, and it feels differently than, getting burn spells flung at you feels bad. Having all your spells be countered feels bad, but they all feel bad differently. And just being Mindslaver locked is a very unique brand to feel that, and that's why it's on my list.
Love it.
It's on brand of, kicking the junk. It's just Academy Ruins, first of all, is a $20 card, only been printed in Time Spiral and Modern Masters. It's just one of those that whenever you see anything like this, like when you see recursion that you can do over and over and over again, you just start to think, okay, what's the most powerful thing I can do with an artifact that I could bring back every single turn? And Mindslaver is just, it's a unique experience in sadness and pain and helplessness, I think is a better word. You're just like, don't do that. No, don't do the and they just ruin everything.
Was recently parodied in Unstable with the card Kind Slaver. Got a shout out there, which I thought was a neat kind of. I think when you've made it into an Unstable set, I think that kind of says something about what you've done to sort of the zeitgeist that you get to be in there.
Right.
I used to play this combo. in old Blue-White Tron back in old Extended. That was one of my choices, where I would play Gifts Ungiven for this combo: Academy Ruins, Mindslaver, and Crucible of Worlds, and the Shadowmoor Common Mine Excavation. Which says return target artifact or enchantment card in a graveyard to its owner's hand, and it has Conspire, but I would never Conspire it, and it was a colorless and a white. But basically that pile meant that you would get the combo in the next turn. Just a super powerful combo, 13 mana. You also never decked yourself because of the way that Academy Ruins works. It puts it on top of your library. Just a super clean combo and definitely a great 1-2 punch.
Oh man, super sweet card is. I mean, Mindslaver in general, again, just one of the best things to ever come out of Magic Design. Anyway, is
absolutely.
I can be you. I can take your turn and I can screw with you, and they're like, we'll balance it by letting them have an extra turn after.
Right. Exactly.
That'll work.
Yeah.
God, it's painful.
And when people say I cast Emrakul, I Mindslaver you like that. It became
it's a verb.
It's a verb now. It just became part of the language, so that speaks to it as well.
I also think, and this is just a little bit off topic, but there was something that Mark Rosewater was talking about, was like, well, what if we didn't call milling cards?
Right, yeah.
Which to me sounds like they're going to keyword putting cards from your top of your library.
How about you call it dredge and make that an evergreen mechanic? How
about
there you go.
Wow.
Unlikely.
Right. On brand, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. Moving here to number 6. My number 6 is one of those like all-time great standard combos. The ones you can point back and you go, man, there was this period in time in Magic when I could go X into Y, and man, it felt good every time. It felt good every time. It was one of the top tier things you could do for a very long time in Standard, because the value, you would get such ridiculous value out of this card, because there was this green creature, and when it entered the battlefield, you gained 5 life, and when it left the battlefield, it didn't have to die, it didn't have to go anywhere, it just had to leave, and you go back, because if it leaves the battlefield, you get a 3/3 beast creature token. So they went and they made this angel, and they were like, this angel's gonna be so sick, you have no idea. And
they were right.
Whoo! Playing a Thragtusk into a Restoration Angel is one of the finest, just some fantastic feelings in Magic. Yeah. Thragtusk is a green and 4 generic mana 5/3 rare beast from M13 originally. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 5 life. And when it leaves the battlefield, you put a 3/3 green beast creature token onto the battlefield, and you pair it up with Miss Restoration Angel, a white and 3 generic mana rare angel, originally from Avacyn Restored, and it says it has flash and it has flying, and it's a 3/4. So 4 mana 3/4 flash flyer. Here we go. We're already at the good stat. When it enters the battlefield, you may exile target non-angel creature you control, then return that card to the battlefield under your control. So you just said, I guess I'm just going to gain 5 life and get a 3/3 beast at instant speed.
And a 3/4 flyer.
Yeah, and plus the 3/4 flyer on top of all that, because reasons. That was amazing. This was the most unbelievable 2-card combo in Standard for as long as they were legal. Thragtusk and Restoration Angel is a match made in heaven.
Mm-hmm. Absent Reanimator dominated that format. If you have the go-to sideboard strategy of Tristani, Celestnia's Voice, on top of the value you just described, you gain 11 life. If you had Unburial Rights, you could start the combo whenever the heck you wanted. If you had Angel of Serenity, you could buy it all back, and the whole thing got started with, Satyr, Wayfinder, and Mulch, and Trapper's Instinct style cards. Just a complete Grizzly Salvage was the best one because it put 5 cards in the pile instead of just your normal 4. Just an unbelievably powerful standard combo. Made rounds go to forever. Game 1 would last 2 hours if they let you. Just an amazing standard combo.
Yeah, Thragtusk definitely defined standard, and it's definitely one of those cards that defined mid-range decks. Like, I remember when Corsair Crucifix came out, it was like, this is the new Thragtusk, and I remember people, once, Corsair was gone, it started people going, well, we need this. It really defined mid-range to where I think people didn't know what to do without it, where, like, we'd gotten so accustomed to that being a mid-range card, and then when Thragtusk was gone, it was like, well, what do we do now? Like, we're so used to having this speed bump, this way to sort of bridge between the early game and the late game, and, for a while there, people were just trying anything to fill the void because we'd become so spoiled from having that card, and it was just, those were some interesting days,
Rubin, do you have a number 6?
I don't. For those keeping score at home, I have 4 hires out of my 10 through 6.
And we haven't hit one of them. Is that correct?
You've not hit one of them yet.
You got it. Aaron, what is your number 6?
I can't let Rubin, go out there alone. My number 6 is also higher on someone else's list.
Wow,
I only have 2.
Well, at least we had one. For number 6 at all, which is fine, because now we're at number 5, and I don't have one. Because it's my final remaining hire is number 5. But I know what y'all been thinking. I got you. I got this because we're on the higher train.
Yeah.
Rubin, what's your number 5?
I actually have a number 5. And again, we're going to go way back in time. Maybe not super far, like not 1996, but 2000, right? That's 18 years ago. This combo could vote. So... There was some. So here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the most broken Pro Tour of all time. All right, Pro Tour Philadelphia 2000, which was extended, just combo all over the place. And one of the most important decks that people played, or one of the most important combos that people played at that Pro Tour, was lovingly referred to as Tricks. And if y'all don't know, now you know. Here's the Tricks combo. Illusions of Grandeur, donate.
Oh.
So Illusions of Grandeur, originally from Ice Age, is a 3 colorless and a blue enchantment with cumulative upkeep of 2. And when Illusions of Grandeur enters the battlefield, you gain 20 life. And when Illusions of Grandeur leaves the battlefield, you lose 20 life. Now, wouldn't it be great if you owned the Illusions when you played it and got that 20, but then you didn't when you lost 20? Well, luckily, they printed Donate in Urza's Destiny. 2 colorless and a blue sorcery. Target player gains control of target permanent you control. And fortunately, the mana matches up super nice because you play Illusions on turn 4. Next turn, untap, pay your cumulative upkeep. If you have 4 and subtract 2, that's 2. Make your land drop for the turn, 3 mana, Donate. This was in the hands of, for example, Scott McCord played the more blue-black controlling version. Kai Bude played the quicker Merchant Scroll, like try to get to the combo as fast as possible, blue-red version. Tricks is commonly referred to as one of, if not the best extended deck of all time. Mike Flores said that the full-on version made everything else ever pale by comparison. It's just a ludicrous combo that forces your opponent to start investing in something immediately with their mana, or else they immediately lose the game. This was a pretty powerful combo, and I think well deserving of a top 5 spot.
I just want to make sure I understand it correctly, because I'm still a little confused here. So if I'm understanding correctly, so the enchantment says you gain 20 life, and then when it goes away, you lose 20 life.
Right. Correct.
So you'd be back at 20, wouldn't you?
You'd be back at normal. However, when you play it, triggered ability, I go to 40. Oh, then you can take it, Aaron. You have the solutions in play now. And when you fail to pay the cumulative upkeep, you will lose 20 life after I donate it to you.
The person, whoever controls it, when it goes away, loses 20. So if I play it and I gain 20 life, and then I give it to you, when it goes away, you lose the life. I don't lose the life.
Oh, so you wouldn't be there for the life gain trigger. You would just lose 20.
Correct.
Correct.
Got it. Okay, yeah, that's bad.
Yeah,
Yeah, that turns out to be pretty bad. 20 damage in one shot.
It's pretty rude. Yeah, it's pretty rude. And back that up with Force of Will. Also, later in the game, you can just Hoodwink. Like immediately donate Hoodwink if you want to immediately get the effect.
And what
this deck was
Hoodwink?
legal. Hoodwink is a pretty. It's just a colorless and a blue, and you return an artifact, enchantment, or creature to its owner's hand. Artifact, creature, enchantment to its owner's hand. For artifact, 2 mana. It's a
creature or land to its own.
Land. Oh, Jesus. Okay, well, that's worse. But this deck was also legal with Mana Vault. You could play Necropotence also and Demonic Consultation to dig into the combo if you really wanted to. This was just a crazy combo that dominated the format for a good long time.
What was the verdict from R&D? Like, was this planned? Like, I can't imagine they intended it to be used that way.
I mean, they didn't notice that the untap mechanic was busted. Like, come on,
okay.
we're running a pretty low bar in terms of like what Wizards saw.
They were aware of this with I think it was Ledger Domain or Juxtapose, when you could like exchange stuff, you could exchange permanents, but then they just printed Donate and it was cheaper and cleaner, and then it just took over everything.
Yeah, the cleaner argument, that one, I always enjoyed that one. Well, this was busted.
No, it's good.
But we wouldn't have made it really busted, so we just gave him something dumb. Aaron, what's number 5 for you?
My number 5 is the last higher on my list.
Fair enough. Oh, well, at least we did have a number 5, just like a number. That's fine.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We're just moving on here. We're just keeping it snappy. We're doing well.
You're welcome.
That's right. Number 4, Rubin.
So, again, going way back in time. This one actually going way, way back in time, 1997. There was a deck called Wishing Well that people played at Pro Tour Paris.
I am going to have that song in my head all night, just so you know.
Well, there you go. And now whenever you play Prosperity and Cadaverous Bloom, you can sing that song to yourself.
Wishing well.
Because David Mills and eventual Pro Tour winner Mike Long ended up winning that Pro Tour with those cards in it. Magic has never been the same. This was really the first 2-card combo deck to win a Pro Tour.
Yeah.
So, Cadaverous Bloom, for those of you playing along at home, is a 3-colorless black-green enchantment from Mirage. Choose a card in your hand and remove it from the game. Add black-black or green-green to your mana pool. Play this ability as a mana source. Now, you kind of want to have a lot of cards in your hand when you use that. And it doesn't really matter if your opponent has any cards in their hand, so why not give them some too? So Prosperity is a X and a blue sorcery, originally from Visions. Each player draws X cards. This allows you to either play out a quick Cadaverous Bloom, or find a quick Cadaverous Bloom, and then they sort of work together. You would basically draw a bunch of cards with Prosperity, remove them all for mana, get another Prosperity, remove them all for mana, get another Prosperity, eventually drawing into your eventual win condition, which was usually the 1 drain life. This was, of course, a combo as well with cards like Squandered Resources and Natural Balance. There's a very famous example of Mike Long doing Mike Long things and basically bluffing his way into a win after he'd already exiled Drain Life from his deck, and his opponent didn't realize that it was exiled and conceded the game with 100% to win. Just a Pros Bloom is just a classic combo from back in the day that everybody needs to know because it was the first.
It was busted. There was nothing non-busted about it, and
absolutely.
I feel it's one of those like I feel so privileged. I got to run that busted crap and just destroy some poor children's lives at F&M as they're just like, I have this 2/1 first striker, and I'm like, you are dead. Do you see? You see what I'm doing here? Draw your cards, whatever. I don't care. You're dead. It's great. Speaking of dead and great, this was a combo. That kind of accidentally the whole legacy. They just like, oh God, I didn't mean to accidentally the legacy, but I accidentally the legacy because when you have 2 cards that work so well together, 2 tastes that taste so good together, sometimes you just break it, and it broke it so bad. This stupid combo had 3 different flavors. You had the combo, you had the aggro, you had the control version. You had all the different.
You muted yourself.
I did. I was so excited. I just
accidentally the microphone.
I know,
so
right?
Excited.
Survival of the Fittest and Vengevine were a force to be reckoned with. Survival of the Fittest was originally printed as an Exodus rare. It is a green and a generic mana enchantment. It says 1 green, choose and discard a creature card, search your library for a creature card, reveal that card to all players, and put it in your hand and shuffle your library. Okay, cool. Vengevine showed up in Rise of the Eldrazi. Is still a $20 mythic rare from that set. It is 2 green, 2 generic mana for a 4/3 elemental. It has haste, and whenever you cast a spell, if it's the second creature you cast this turn, you may return Vengevine from your graveyard to the battlefield. So, if you're using Survival of the Fittest to go find cheap creatures, if you're playing those cheap creatures now that your Vengevines are in the graveyard, when you play the second creature, here come all the Vengevines back, killing people out of nowhere. Everyone kept saying stuff like, well, just ban the Vengevine, because, Vengevine's the problem here. Vengevine's the problem in this little engine you got. No, yeah. Survival was busted. Survival finally got banned in Legacy as a result of this very combo, which just wreaked havoc for like a year. Like, they put up with this for a while.
They did.
For Wizards, it's finally like, all right, you bunch of weirdos with your shenanigans and your Vengevine crap, get out of here. Because they had to. This thing just busted Legacy wide open. Survival of the Fittest Vengevine was amazing.
So if you want to keep talking about Vengevine with Survival of the Fittest, now's your time, because my number 9 was Survival of the Fittest combined with a different card, throwing it back to Standard, the eponymous Rexer decks. Yes. Survival of the Fittest combined with Recurring Nightmare.
Which is a fair combo. No, it's not.
It's
a fair entry into the 2-card combo is sort of what I meant.
Right. So Recurring Nightmare is 2 colorless and a black, originally from Exodus. Enchantment, it said sacrifice a creature and return Recurring Nightmare to its owner's hand. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate this ability only at a time that you could cast a sorcery. This deck was dominant. It was absolutely all over the place. It won the 1998 World Championships in the hand of Brian Selden. You were basically discarding a tiny creature or a utility creature and going to get whatever else you needed. Your entire deck was a toolbox. If you were Hellbent, you could top deck a Birds of Paradise, and it would be the best thing you could top deck, because you could discard it, go get your Spirit of the Night, discard your Spirit of the Night, go get whatever the heck you wanted, and then Recurring Nightmare back your Spirit of the Night. This deck made lots of things that seemed unplayable playable. Various idiot creatures like Thrall Surgeon, Cloud Chaser, Eagle. There was just so much garbage that this deck used, and it was all part of the plan. Survival of the Fittest may be one of the most powerful engines of all time.
It's busted. Recurring Nightmare, earlier we're like, wow, did they see X and Y coming? Recurring Nightmare and Survival of the Fittest were in the same set. Yep. Not even like a big set. A small set.
It was a small set.
Same set, man. You're just like, why are you doing this? Please.
Crazy.
It was insane. It was nuts. That said, Aaron, what is your number 4?
As somebody who has played graveyard decks for a while, I love putting things in my graveyard. The problem with that, though, is that a lot of times you are bound by certain restrictions, where you either are restricted to cards that are currently in your hand, you're restricted to whatever cards you draw. So, for example, if you have something like Faithless Looting, it's like, well, you draw 2, discard 2. And if you drew 2 cards that were garbage, well, you're just kind of binning garbage, and that's not what you want to be doing. Or you're restricted by the creatures already on the battlefield. You're putting things in the graveyard, but you have to get them out there first, and they have to die somehow, or you have to sacrifice them somehow. My one half of my 2-card combo really gets around all of that. You can go looking for exactly what you want to put in there that is broken. This is one of BDM's most hated cards. Brian David Marshall went off on a Twitter rant the other day saying how this card just never needed to exist, which of course means I think it needs to exist, and I've had some very, very good times with this card. My 2-card combo is Entomb and Reanimate. So Entomb costs 1 black. It's from Odyssey. It's very simple, actually. It's an instant. You search your library for a card and put it in your graveyard. shuffle your library. You're not having to there's not the randomness of Bazaar of Baghdad. There's not the randomness of Faithless Looting. Oh no, it's whatever you want. And then for another black, which you can get with like your Dark Ritual or something, you cast Reanimate, which is a sorcery. Put target creature card from any graveyard into play under your control. Lose life equal to that creature's total casting cost. So you specifically go after whatever tool you want. Say you want a Griselbrand, say you want Iona, say you want Tidespout Tyrant. Whatever you want your tool to be, Entomb goes and gets it, puts it in the graveyard, and then Reanimate happens. And I can't think of anything more pure than that. But yeah, this card, and even if you look at the discussion, Gatherer has these discussion forums that they used to have, and there are people just screaming in the discussion of this card is a mistake. And I think it's just fantastic, because if you're not familiar with reanimation strategies, you look at this and you're like, why would you want to do this? Like, why? I don't get it. But if your goal is to do graveyard shenanigans, this is exactly what you want. And I just can't think of anything better.
Reanimate was dumb. Reanimate was just... Reanimate was like just so dumb. You're like, so why? Good. Why one black and then the life in any graveyard? Any graveyard. It's not just yours, it's anybody's, who cares? Because this is a $20 uncommon. It was printed in Tempest, it was printed in Arch Enemy and Premium Series Graveborn, and that's it. Everything else is online or whatever. So your $20 uncommon that is really ridiculous, super crazy good, way overpowered. And Tomb, another one of those cards where you're just like, that's a rare, and then you're like, wait a minute, wait a minute. Now you know why it's a rare.
Prior to, it starts with search your library for a card. For one mana. The rest of the text doesn't matter.
That's Vampiric Tutor cost. That's Mystical Tutor cost. That's right up there with the tutors, And I remember this being pretty expensive. It was recently reprinted, I think, in Eternal Masters.
It was.
With some new art. But before that, I think it was peaking at like $30, $40. Like, it was pretty expensive.
Yeah, it was super crazy expensive. Particularly the Odyssey foils were definitely not cheap. And one of those cards were just like, wow, that looks really weird as a rare, but once you see the possibilities, it's just not close. And then you just go like, why is it only one black? That's not fair.
I mean, you mentioned sort of Dark Ritual and Hypnotic Spectre. Oh no, the dream is Dark Ritual, Entomb, Reanimate.
Well, then we're into 3-card combos, and that breaks our top 10s.
My cube dream is be on the draw, pass, discard Griselbrand, go. But sometimes you have to search your library for the Griselbrand. And when you have to, there's nothing better than an Entomb.
And instant speed.
Crazy.
Things are going bad and you're on the back foot. Sometimes just looking for a Faithless Looting, just be able to put it in your graveyard so you can flash it back. That's extremely relevant too.
Yep.
It's true, because it's any card. Not even like a creature. It wasn't like go find a creature, even though it's burying a creature on the card.
I've entombed many a coffin purge in my day. So yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Well, we're gonna move on here to number 3. We're already in our top 3, which is exciting. And here is one. I have a good old-fashioned combo that accidentally extended. It accidentally the whole extended, and not only that, it was a Mondo combo that from somebody who we just saw just the other night at GP Vegas, or I'm sorry, GP Phoenix. One Mr. Gerald Thompson.
Yes.
Who just so happened to take this little combo and run with it, and wrecked extended. And I remember playing extended. I remember playing this deck, and I was playing. I want to even say I played against Jared. He crushed me. I mean, because obviously, but like, this was one of those decks that you the more you knew about it, the better you played with it, the more powerful a result that you could get. Because the better you knew when to play your Vampire Hexmage, the more you knew when to play your Dark Depths. Your Dark Depths plus your Hexmage equals, oops, we accidentally broke it. And because Dark Depths and the Dark Dex token, which by the way no one gave a crap about until Vampire Hexmage showed up, which was the reason that thing is like $50 or $60, whatever stupid price it is these days. Well, in Zendikar, Vampire Hexmage showed up. It's a 2-black mana uncommon Vampire Shaman that has first strike. It's a 2/1 first strike for 2 mana. Whoopity. Also, it says sacrifice it to remove all counters from target permanent. Now, counters can be whatever. We got these new Saga things. Those come with counters. That does stuff for counters. Planeswalker. This is a way for black to kill Planeswalkers. This was a big deal.
Which it didn't have at the time.
A noble cause.
Yeah, there was nothing that said destroy target Planeswalker at the time. This was as close as you ever got. That was all anyone was talking about. And then, oops, Dark Depths is busted and broken, and oh my god, and it was so stupid and busted and broken, they wouldn't even let it in Modern. It's never been, correct me if I'm wrong, literally never been in Modern as a legal card.
Yeah, I don't believe so.
I think it was banned from the get-go. Dark Depths is a rare legendary snowland from Cold Snap that comes into play with 10 ice counters on it that says 3 generic mana, remove an ice counter from it. Isn't that just adorable?
It's melting, you guys.
It is.
It's so cute. When it has no ice counters on it, you sacrifice it. And if you do, you put an indestructible flying 2020 black avatar creature token with flying named Merit Lage into play so ridiculous that Jerry Thompson made one of his invitational winning cards as this 2020 token because it was ridiculous, because this thing did so much. This card alone won Jerry so much money, so much acclaim, did an amazing job. I could not pilot this deck the way that the really good pilots, obviously Jerry included, could pilot this deck. I was there playing with a sports car, having only my play school experience of riding around in a vehicle.
This was my number 5. I had the combo of Dark Depths and Thespian Stage, which recently came out with the Return to Ravnica block. They reprinted a land that lets you copy Dark Depths, which essentially does the same thing as the Vampiric Hexmage. Dark Depths is very much is a win condition for legacy lands. That is their primary way of winning the game. We've even seen an offshoot called Turbo Depths, which leans more on Vampire Hexmage and just sort of green-black crop rotation, Thoughtseize, kind of a green-black rock
Living
deck
Wish,
that also.
I think.
Yeah, that also kind of has like a pox aspect to it as well. But there are some decks that's the plan. Like our plan is to do nothing but cheat this into play, and God bless it.
I'm glad that both of you had the different combos higher on your list. This was my number 10, the Hexmage version.
Oh, nice.
Was my number 10, Hexmage Depths, which combined with Thopter Sword in that Jerry Thompson special that dominated Extended until Extended died. Mm-hmm. And that's all you really need to know, is that from the point at which it was incepted until the format ended, this was the deck. That's all you really need to know.
Like, it's rare that you could find a 2-card combo that literally killed the format. It killed the entire... I mean, it definitely felt that way.
It was 2 different 2-card combos, which was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it was 2 different ways to be busted, and that's terrific.
Yeah.
But...
Even now, people are still innovating with it. I remember when Solemnity came out, there were a lot of questions of, can we? Like, is this, can we do this? And then Mirage Mirror was another popular one, that artifact that copied things. There were also some brewers that were like, let's do this. And that's just one of those cards that people consistently look back on and try to find new ways to mess with it.
Yeah. It's great to have little clauses that say, like, if something doesn't exist on this card, do a thing.
Right.
It's often not that hard to make things not exist on cards.
No.
Right. And while the Thespian Stage thing is like a huge part of lands now, I specifically chose the Hexmage one because previous to this combo being discovered, boxes of Cold Snap were cheaper than Dark Depths became once this combo was discovered.
Yep. Wow. And I also have to give a shout out to this combo. There were some vintage dredge pilots that were using this as a transformational sideboard as a way to sort of sidestep all the graveyard hate, where you're bringing in 4 cages and that's cute, girl, but I'm just going to make a Merit Lage. How about that?
Right,
and then you use the Bazaar to sort of dig into the 2-card combo. And we haven't really seen that for a while, but it was certainly a viable alternative for a long time.
That's sweet. Rubin, what's your number 3?
My number 3 is the final hire on someone else's list. We've gone through all 5 of my hires.
Every last one of them. Aaron, what's your number 3?
So I kind of talked earlier in the show about how one of the ways to win a game is by making sure that your opponent just can't play anymore. We talked about the Mindslaver Academy Ruins thing, where you create this lock of, I'm going to take all of your turns for you. So I'm going to get my turns, and I'm going to get your turns, and you're just never going to play. This is another combo that sort of exploits the idea of taking turns. And this is a combo that ensures that you get all of the turns. You're not taking their turns. Oh, no. They simply don't get a turn anymore. You will have all of the turns as long as this combo happens. This is a combo that is restricted in Vintage, but it is also a very popular win con in Vintage. There are some decks where this is the plan. It's you tinker into it, you find a way to do it, but damn it, we have no other way to win the game than this. My number 3 is the combo of Voltaic Key and Time Vault. So Voltaic Key, so we'll start off with Time Vault. So Time Vault is 2 colorless. It's an artifact. Enters the battlefield tapped. It does not untap during your untap step. If you would begin your turn while Time Vault is tapped, you may skip that turn, and instead if you do untap Time Vault. A little bit of word salad there.
Yeah.
And you can tap it to take an extra turn after this one. You combine that with Voltaic Key, which is a 1 colorless artifact that just simply says, for 1 colorless and tap, you untap target artifact. So you basically just whoop whoop. boop, boop. I'm just gonna take all the turns. You're never going to play again. And it's not that you get turns and I'm taking them. You just don't ever get a turn. And so this is a combo that you just kind of know to scoop to, and it's a very, very powerful combo. Frighteningly easy to assemble, especially given that it's restricted, and most of the cards that help you find it are restricted. But once you get there, it's just a big plan A for a lot of decks.
Time Vault was like a real problem for Wizards for a long time. Back when errata, we actually had actual factual errata in Magic. They changed how this thing worked entirely. You used to have like counters. You used to put a counter on it, and then you would untap it to remove the counter or add the counter or whatever. It was silly. Now we have this kind of new retro type wording that says if you would begin your turn while it's tapped.
It's been cleaned up a lot.
Yeah, they cleaned it up a lot. No more errata, and once they changed the errata, this combo took over Vintage. This was my number 7.
Okay.
It's very rare that when you discuss a card and you say, I think that's too oppressive for Cube. Right? Like,
it takes a lot to say.
Even in the Magic Online Vintage Cube, Time Vault just isn't a thing. I've seen it in less than 10% of cubes in my life, and yet it's probably top 25 most powerful cards of all time. Like, the fact that it's not in cubes speaks to how oppressive. It's only 4 colorless to assemble, or 4 generic mana to assemble. 2/3 the cost of that Painter's Servant grindstone crap that I was talking about earlier. You can put this thing in any deck. I mean, even stacks if you really wanted to, but basically everything runs blue, so you might as well have this in there as well, and you might as well put Tinker in there. So this was a favorite. It still is. It's a little bit weaker than it used to be, just based on how the metagame has shifted. But yeah, Vault Key, to this day, is a huge part of the Vintage metagame, with decks like Steel City Vault and the various other word Vault decks from the history of Magic. Just an extremely potent and powerful combo.
And it was amazing that the brilliant Eric Lauer, Magic developer, decided to put Voltaic Key into Magic 2011, in which we all went, oh my god, 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 thud. Nothing happened. No one cared. Absolute zero. Nobody gives a crap, because it's all about
Voltaic Key has a history of untapping super powerful stuff, but it's the hype man. It's not the main course. So when you put it in M11 and the best thing you're untapping are like 4/4s, who cares?
It was cute. I mean, it was one of those, that's adorable. Like, it was actually busted back then. Now it's just adorable. Or adorkable, if you will. So, we're going to move on here to number 2. And my number 2 basically took over a Grand Prix. And I believe as the stories kind of floated around about it, one Mr. Steve Sadin was using said combo in said Grand Prix, and someone said, okay, how does your combo work? And he's like, But no one ever told me to go do the combo. Everyone just saw the pieces and scooped. Because, they're just reprinted in Masters 25 with brand new artwork is the card Flash.
Oh, God.
For 1 blue and 1 generic mana. It is a reprint from Mirage that says you may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. If you do, sacrifice it unless you pay its mana cost reduced by up to 2 generic mana. And on the other half of that is also in Masters 25 of Protean Hulk. Protean Hulk, originally from Dissension, is 2 green, 5 generic mana for a 6/6 rare beast that when it dies, you search your library for any number of creature cards with total converted mana cost 6 or less and put them on the battlefield, and you shuffle your library. There is a variety of ways that you can take these 2 cards and turn them into instant wins. It involves loops, it involves sacrificing,
body double,
timing.
I can help you break these down.
Ruben needs to help us walk through at least one iteration. How this works.
So the way that Steve Sadin won Grand Prix Columbus in 2009?
No, it was like 6.
Was it before that? 2006? Okay.
2007, maybe.
Yeah, sure. The way that he won with Flash Hulk, which was the breakout for this deck, was that basically you flash out the Hulk on turn 0, turn 1, whatever, turn 2 at the slowest, and you would go get Karmic Guide, which costs 5, and allowed you to bring back a creature from your graveyard, and a Carrion Feeder, which cost 1 and had sacrifice a creature, do something. Which will let you bring back the Protean Hulk, which lets you sacrifice the Protean Hulk again to go get Kiki Jiki.
Oh, my God.
Which allowed you to copy the Karmic Guide, which allowed you to then combo off. And the way that you won from there was that you basically attacked with infinite, hasty, various things. And you had a body snatcher in there for
body snatcher.
Just in case, yeah, body snatcher, which was a rare from Urza's Destiny, just in case you had a combo piece in your hand. But that was basically the combo. Is that you sort of assembled it that way. There were other combos of various flavors. For example, the Bubble Hulk combo that I used to play in Old Extended used a Revelark loop along with Mog Fanatic to deal a damage, bring it back, deal a damage, bring it back. Footsteps of the Goryo, Shifty Doppelganger was another way to get the combo to get going without the Flash half, just the Protean Hulk. And the very earliest iterations of this, legend tells that the first iterations of this were 4 Disciple of the Vault, and
the zero costing creatures.
For each of the X cost creatures. So Phyrexian, I believe it was like Shifting Wall, and then there was a Phyrexian Walker? Ravager Walker was the 0/3. There was an XX for X that attacked each turn if able. And you would go get all 8 of those. Your opponent would lose 8 times 4 life. That was the initial. But basically, people kept trying to pare down exactly how many creatures needed to be in the deck at any given time. Steve Saden's Flash Hulk deck ended up winning that Pro Tour. Flash was banned very soon thereafter. Very dominant deck, obviously. It was on my list as well, my number 6. Flash Hulk still ransacking people in case you run into it in Vintage. But yeah, absolutely one of the most powerful. Maybe the most powerful Legacy deck of all time was when you were able to play 4 Pact of Negation and 4 Summoner's Pact for a day. There was just the Sunday of that Grand Prix, because Future Sight wasn't legal for that Grand Prix until the next day. But if you entered Legacy daily events, or just like pickup events in Legacy, you could play full power Flash Hulk. And I don't see how you would ever lose a game with that deck. But yeah, speaks to the power, my number 6, and deserving of a top 3 slot too.
That was from Columbus 2007.
2007.
Short years ago.
That was the first time that I reported live from a Grand Prix for Mr. Evan Irwin's The Magic Show.
Oh, who's that? I've heard.
Yeah. Me and Nick Miller were there playing decks that were not Flash Hulk, so we were very stupid.
Bubble Hulk is just one of those decks that just gives you just flashbacks. Just like if you've ever faced it, you will never forget the time you faced it. It's a horrifying deck to face.
Shout out to I forget what the team name is, but they're Australian for being the Bubble Hulk team. Okay. They have a bubble in their name. I forget what the team was named back then, but shout out to those guys.
Yeah. So Rubin, what's your number 2?
My number 2 at this point is a part of the language. It's a part of the lexicon. When a combo does something like this, it's just it harkens back to this combo that Wizards of the Coast accidentally put into Standard, which accidentally Standard and every other format up to Legacy. It doesn't really see play in Legacy, but it won the first Modern Pro Tour. It then proceeded to win another Modern Pro Tour. This is just the combo that did it, and that's why Splinter Twin is banned in Modern, because they accidentally printed it alongside Deceiver Exarch. So Exarch Twin is the combo. We'll start out with the Twin half, since that's the one that's banned in Modern. Splinter Twin is 2 colorless red enchantment aura, originally from Rise of the Eldrazi. The Deceiver Exarch, which is a 2 colorless and a blue 1/4 cleric, for some reason, that has flash. You may cast a spell at any time you could cast an instant. And when it enters the battlefield, choose one. Untap target permanent you control, or tap target permanent and opponent controls. So basically what you would do is, end of your 3rd turn, play a Deceiver Exarch to tap one of your opponent's lands, untap, play your 4th land, and play Splinter Twin. The first Exarch, the card version of Exarch, taps, makes a new token. The token untaps the card version, and Bob's your uncle. You make 1,000,000 of them, and then attack your opponent with 100,000 clerics. That's the combo, and there are various versions of this combo you can assemble in various cubes and extended decks. The Deceiver Exarch part can be replaced by either Pestermite or Zealous Conscripts. The Splinter Twin version can be replaced by Kiki Jiki, the Mirror Breaker, for example. There are a couple ways to assemble this style of combo, and even more recent make infinite tokens of various types, which I don't know if we will talk about, but Saheeli Rai and Felidar Guardian led to an additional banning, this one in Standard, of the 1/4 cat that was over there. So, yes, Deceiver Exarch Splinter Twin, multiple Pro Tour wins, very dominant in multiple formats, and I think needs to be almost at the top of the list.
People still clamor for it. You still occasionally will see the hashtag of Free Twin, in Twitch chat or on social media. And it was definitely a test. Like, there was definitely a test of, like, can you pass the turn at turn 3 or turn 4 and be okay? Or, like, do you have an answer for a turn 4 this? It was definitely an obstacle that if you were playing Modern, if you were bad against Twin, or you just were going to be tapping out in turn 3 or 4, you might as well not even show up, because this was very much a factor that people use to determine what decks were good. And I certainly played a lot of green-black decks in my day where it's like, just keep decay open, because if you tap out, you're just done. And this deck just it went for a long time. Like, this deck was really powerful for years, and I feel like at times it even kind of wore out its welcome. Like, I'm amazed it lasted as long as it did, to be quite honest. But sure. It's gone. I think it's fine that it's gone, but it still has just those diehard fans that are like, Free Twin. But I do feel that, like, I don't think it's a coincidence that Modern really started experiencing its resurgence after this deck got banned. I do think it kept a lot of decks out of the format, specifically a lot of, like, the fringe or the more whimsical decks that we see today and that can be tier 1 today. And so I don't think it's a coincidence that Modern is having this resurgence, and I don't think it would have been possible if Twin was still around.
On May 11th, 2011, Patrick Chapin wrote an article where he was reviewing the new Phyrexia set. Now, for those who don't recall, new Phyrexia was busted in its entirety via the leaking of the God Book. This is where a few authors over in France got a little willy-nilly. They got really excited, showing people stuff that no one else could see, and one thing led to another, and they accidentally the entire God Book with them and their friends, which leaked online, and the world champion got suspended for a while, and it was really awkward. But on that sort of the next week thereafter, Chapin was writing a set review, and he said, there's this combo, Deceiver Exarch and Splinter Twin, and it's awesome because to go back and read it, because, Chapin is as Chapin does, and it's like, it's weirdly always prophetic when he says, this combination is going to revolutionize Standard in much the same way that Sword of Feast and Famine did, leading into a cascading series of changes as the entire format adjusts to the new world order. Because it did. It from that day, it blew up. Because Deceiver Exarch wasn't previewed. We barely even got a spoiler season before the whole thing just leaked right out. So this combo just showed up, never really left, and people are clamoring to get it back into Modern even to this day. Could you just give us Splinter Twin Exarch? Because
and then it happens again. Like, how is this not on your radar? Come Kaladesh and come Aetherful, and then whoopsies, we didn't. Like you said, Evan, kind of earlier in the show, it was the same block or the same set. Like, it wasn't like it happened 2 sets later. Like, how?
The next set over, you guys are killing me, because this was my number 5, so it is in my top 5 all time. And I also appreciate the fact that we both chose Splinter Twin plus Exarch. We didn't choose Kiki Jiki plus Resto Angel or whatever. No. Right. This is the combo.
This is where it started.
That busted everything in half. Aaron, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is the reason for the card for the deck. This combo inspired a deck, specifically in Vintage, affectionately known as 2-card Monty. It is we talk about wild ways to win the game. Whether it's you're taking all the turns, you're taking someone else's turn, whether you're painting all of their cards a certain color and then milling them. You're taking 2 cards that I don't think were ever intended to work together and coming up with almost a turn 1 kill in a lot of cases. My number 2 is Helm of Obedience and Leyline of the Void. So Helm of Obedience is word salad, but God bless, Oracle text and errata and things like that. It's 4 colorless. It's an artifact. I believe it originally came out in Alliances. And you can pay X and tap it. Target opponent puts cards from the top of their library into their graveyard until they find a creature card, or X cards are put into the graveyard that way, whichever comes first. If a creature card is put into the graveyard this way, sacrifice Helm and put that card onto the battlefield under your control. X cannot be 0. Right. You also have Leyline of the Void, Bane of My Existence, which is an enchantment for 2 and 2 black. If Leyline is in your opening hand, put it on the battlefield. If a card to be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. So what this means is that you can even Helm for like 1.
Yep.
And because cards aren't technically going into the graveyard, you keep going, and you keep going until you mill your opponent to death. All of their cards are exiled, and you just win. And when you're facing 2-card Monty in Vintage, it is not uncommon for this to happen on turn 1, between the Moxen, between the Black Lotuses, and just having Leyline in your hand. This is a thing. This is an archetype where they come to play. And shout out to Rubin, because the 2-card Monty decks, their plan B is usually the Painter's Servant combo, where it's like, all right, if we can't do it this way, we're going out this way. And it is a very, very scary deck. And just, I can't tell you how many times you kind of look at it and almost scoff a little bit, where you're like, that's adorable. But when you realize how frighteningly consistent it is, you definitely have to respect it. And it's definitely something you have to be on the lookout for if you're going to play Vintage. And sometimes you see this with Rest in Peace. Legacy Enchantress will sometimes run a main deck Helm and a main deck Rest in Peace. But yeah, it's just two things that were probably never meant to go together that are now an archetype.
Yep. There is a classic SCG Tour moment where current R&D participant Dan Musser dropped a Rest in Peace against Kenan Haas playing lands. And of course, Rest in Peace against lands is a death knell. Unfortunately for him, Kenan untapped, played his 5th land, and cast his own Helm of Obedience, using Dan's Rest in Peace to kill him.
Kill the killers.
And so it's nice to see. Even though the enemy of your enemy is your friend. And so even if it's in this context, it's nice to see Erin put Leyline of the Void near the top of one of her lists.
You have to respect it, and they're not necessarily using it against me. They're doing it to everybody. So I feel a little more okay with that.
There you go.
Not quite the hate. And, sometimes you play yourself, as they say, when you, oops, excellent. See, this was my number 9. And I also appreciate, again, the exact same 2 cards. I could have been Rest in Peace, and I actually thought, I was like, well, if Erin does, she's going to have Rest in Peace plus Helm, because newer cards and blah blah. No, this is sweet. This is the original. This is one of those you're like, that doesn't, and then I oh god, it's a nice sort of it washes over you type combo. You're like, you're dead now. You're dead now. We're done here. You're
no
dead.
Words, only silence.
It's terrific. Helm of Obedience also a part of the reserve list. So we're not going to see any more of those. Feel free to get your copies now for about $15.50 because they're only going up. That's how those cards work. But we get to turn the corner to number 1, numero uno. I'm pretty sure this would be Rubin's number 3. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is Aaron's number 6. I don't know, because we haven't figured that out yet. But this was one of the things that when we mentioned, hey, this is going to be the topic for this week's show in the Discord chat, which you can do so by joining our Patreon. They said, hey, if this one's not in there, something's wrong. And this to me is the 2-card combo. This is the ultimate. This is the old school. This is from the beginning of Magic. This is a combo that is so strong. They named an entire company after it. Channel Fireball is my number 1. This is the OG from Alpha all the way back. Channel is a 2-green sorcery. Green for a sorcery that says until end of turn, anytime you could activate a mana ability, you may pay 1 life. And if you do, add a colorless mana to your mana pool. Now, see, this is a lot cleaner than what it was worded back in the day. I'm sparing you. You're welcome.
Yes.
The other half, of course, is Fireball. Also has really weird wording because, Alpha. And then also has been reworded a little bit for you. So for a red and X, it used to be at one point in time red XYZ, but we won't talk about it. For a red and X, Fireball is a sorcery that deals X damage divided evenly, rounded down among any number of target creatures and or players. It costs 1 generic mana more to cast for each target beyond the first. So there's a whole myriad of ways you can write that. The point is, if you could get like a mountain or whatever, something that made a red mana, a Mox Ruby, if you will, and a Black Lotus. And I
discarded you the other night, Rubin, just so you know. I unmasked someone.
Wow. Well, you could tap the red, tap the Lotus for green, pay 19 of your life, fireball them to death on turn 1. That was a thing that you could possibly do. It was living the dream. It was one of the first combos, when I first learned Magic, and I was just like, oh man, what can you do? What can you do? And like, well, take a look at this crazy card and this crazy card, and you can't do this in Standard anymore because it was dumb. But Channel Fireball, again, the fact that it defined part of LSV's company, for God's sake.
Right.
It's more than just lexicon for me. It's like, this is an integral part of the game at this point.
Absolutely. This was my number 3.
Nice.
It is so integral that it is probably the first combo. If you had a Black Lotus, you dealt exactly, I believe it's exactly 20 damage to your opponent between land, Black Lotus, channel, pay 19 life, and you had a red and a colorless left over to deal 20. So you could go turn 1 kill with channel Fireball.
Yep.
And this the rumor is that this combo led to the only 4 of any one card in your deck rule, and of course, led to the development of Channel Fireball, which just recently celebrated its 9th anniversary of being one of the content-creating leaders in Magic the Gathering. Absolutely deserving of a top spot in the list.
That's terrific. So, Aaron, what's your number 1?
My number 1 has a special significance for me. I first encountered this during the Community Super League. There was a tribal week where we each had to agree to play a tribe of cards, specifically one that could be found in the New Shadows over Innistrad block. And I remember Wedge had chosen Nightmares. Nightmare is a creature type, and we ended up having to face him, and we couldn't really think of like how many. You had to include something from current standard, but your whole deck didn't have to be made of it. So you could go back in time and use Nightmares from previous sets. And so I was with the girlfriend bracket at the time. We were playing the Community Super League, and I remember he had, Wedge had binned a creature, if you will, and then proceeded to bring the creature back. And before we knew it, our world just fell apart before our eyes. You could even say that our world was gorged, if you will. Yeah. My number 1 is the combo of World Gorger Dragon and Animate Dead. Nice. So for those playing along at home, this is a lot, so I'm going to walk you through it. So World Gorger Dragon is 3 and 3 red. It's a creature Nightmare Dragon, 7/7 flying trample. When World Gorger Dragon enters the battlefield, exile all other permanents you control. When World Gorger Dragon leaves the battlefield, return the exiled cards to the battlefield under their owner's control. Animate Dead is word salad, but it's basically a colorless and a black. It's an enchantment aura. Enchant creature card in a graveyard. When Animate Dead enters the battlefield, if it's on the battlefield, it loses enchant creature card in a graveyard and gains enchant creature put onto the battlefield with Animate Dead. Return enchanted creature card to the battlefield under your control. I'm so sorry. And attach Animate Dead to it. When Animate Dead leaves the battlefield, that creature's controller sacrifices it. Enchanted creature gets -1/-0. So buckle up, because this is how it works. So if you have World Gorger in your graveyard and Animate Dead in your hand, you cast Animate Dead, you reanimate World Gorger Dragon. When it enters the battlefield, it exiles all other permanents you control, including the Animate Dead. The Animate Dead gets exiled. Its leave the battlefield ability triggers, which means you sacrifice the World Gorger Dragon. Everything exiled with World Gorger Dragon comes back. You then again target the World Gorger Dragon, and you essentially just create this loop, and the game can never really go past that point. It is possible to add additional cards like Piranha Marsh or Altar of the Brood and sort of mill opponents out or kill them incrementally. But the bottom line is this is a loop, and it's never going away. You can either counter the Animate Dead, you can remove the World Gorger Dragon, or if you have any other creature in the graveyard. But the bottom line is this is a thing. And if you want to go back and just see the horror on our faces of like, we'd never seen this before, and specifically on Magic Online, chat was furious. Wedge was public enemy number 1 for like a week. And that's hard to do because Wedge is pretty damn lovable. But yeah, this combo is horrifying. If you've never seen it before, World Gorger was recently unbanned in Legacy. It had been banned for a while. But if you want to talk like just game-breaking, world-breaking combos, pun intended, you really can't beat this because it's just devastating to be on the other end of.
Right. It does. It just gives you infinite mana as well as your lands reset themselves, and you can respond to the trigger by tapping your lands. You can double up on your Animate Deads by playing cards like Dance of the Dead and Necromancy as other ways to reanimate your World Gorger Dragons. And of course, this would be at number 1 because it's a Bazaar of Baghdad themed deck. World Gorger Dragon so powerful that it was banned for a little while. But unfortunately, it hasn't. The 7/7 flying trample for 6 that has all that wall of text, no longer a particular player in any particular metagame. But there was a while there where it was. And boy, those were some interesting days.
This is the perfect kind of card and the perfect kind of combo to kind of come out of left field and do well in Legacy, and then like skitter off into this little hole and hide there for another 3 years so no one can talk about it anymore. You're like, whew, that was some scary stuff, wasn't it? They're like, yeah, did you see that Nightmare Dragon? Jeez, that was insane.
Yeah. Pretty good.
It is super dumb, super, super good. And I think we're all happy that when they unbanned it, it was like, whew, okay, nothing broke. We're cool. Now it's just a dumb thing you can do.
But it was a neat story for the kids, though, who weren't around for it. Because, sometimes cards come off ban list, and if you weren't there for that, like, there were people nowadays that were like, cards fine, what's the big deal? And sort of Evan having an old man magic moment of like, oh, gather around, kiddies, because this is what it used to be like.
You hear me?
That was, yeah.
You're gorging your life away.
Yeah.
I'm over there just shaking, freaking out.
Yeah.
Piranha Marsh, I think you mentioned, was a really great one.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, it's a land from Zendikar that enters the battlefield tapped. When it does so, target player loses 1 life. And it taps out of black.
That's how Wedge killed me and the girls. It's just like, we'd never seen this before. And Athena's in our ear, because Athena's the producer for the VSL. And so we're all horrified, and we're like, what do we do? What do we do? And Athena's like, you got to stick around. You got to at least demonstrate the loop. And we're just like, we want to go home. We were like rolling in a ball, crying. And then finally we got to a point where Athena's like, okay, you guys can concede. But we have Athena in our ear going, wait, don't go, wait, don't go. And we're like, we want to go. And
we want to die. I want to just die. Can I die, please? Oh my gosh. All right, so now we get to figure out, Rubin, what your number 1 is, and I'm taking this as Aaron's number 6.
God, I hope so.
Yeah. So I'm glad I get to wrap up the show, because I am known for a few things. But one of the things I'm known for was a little program called Magic the Newsening, which was your home for fair, balanced, and counterbalanced reporting. And the card Counterbalance works so swimmingly with Sensei's Divining Top. And that is my number 1 combo. So the combo, affectionately referred to as Countertop combo, or what have you, Sensei's Divining Top is a 1-mana artifact, originally an uncommon from Champions of Kamigawa, now a rare from Eternal Masters, and also was in From the Vault Exiled. Not a masterpiece because of that Eternal Masters printing. They didn't want to print it too many times. Pay a colorless, look at the top 3 cards of your library and put them back in any order. Or tap, draw a card, then put Sensei's Divining Top on top of its owner's library. Being able to manipulate the top of your library is exactly what the card Counterbalance wants you to do. 2 blue mana for a uncommon enchantment from Cold Snap. It was also an Amonkhet Invocation. Whenever an opponent plays a spell, you may reveal the top card of your library. If you do, counter that spell if it has the same converted mana cost as the revealed card. These cards were in Standard together for a very brief moment. They dominated Old Extended. If you recall our Flash Hulk discussion with Steve Sadin, he also had 4 of each of this combo in that deck. Paired together, a little bit of his own version of 2-card Monty. This combo dominated Legacy for about 3 years before the recent banning of Counterbalance. The recent banning of Top. And it's just one of the most ubiquitous combos that has ever existed, ever. It is banned in most contexts, raising the price of both of these original uncommons through the roof. And it's just one of, if not the most irreplaceable. Like, we were talking about different, Rest in Peace can replace Leyline, and this can replace this. What are you going to replace either half of this with? What do you do? Like, how you manipulate the top part of your library with Counterbalance?
Well, people have certainly tried. We are now seeing the rise of topless miracles, as they say, where people are using cards like Portent, to sort of manipulate the library that way, or just good old-fashioned brainstorm, doing it. There was even talk of using, Crystal Ball, I think it was.
Oh, sure,
Crystal Ball as well. Nice. But yeah, the deck has survived despite the ban. There's a lot of controversy around the recent banning of Top. There are some people think Top was the wrong thing to ban, that you should just ban Counterbalance. But, again, it's sort of, we talked about the various ways you can sort of lock people out of the game, where you can sort of exile the game with World Gorger Dragon, you can sort of take all the turns, or you can just make sure that what they cast just simply won't get through, that you can counter them all. And so, yeah, this was a very, very powerful combo. This contributed to the dominance of Miracles and Legacy. This was my number 6.
Nice.
And, I'm very fortunate that for the most part as a Dredge player, I wasn't really bothered by the combo, where it's like, okay. But for the people that were affected, it did keep a lot of decks out of the format. And, I'm very happy to see Top banned. But as Evan likes to say, the Top likes doing things. And it did things for a long time, and with the help of Counterbalance.
You gotta let it do what it wants. You know what? Top just does whatever it wants. Top makes things happen.
Yep.
Top, there was a glorious, depending on your point of view, a glorious 3-month period where you could play Top, Counterbalance and Dark Confidant in
Jesus.
standard. Standard. It was amazing. And it didn't take long for people to go like, what? And then it was gone. It was just like, this busted. It took a while for information to get around. There weren't a ton of events and stuff back then, and it just kind of happened and it left, and that was dumb. And then you kind of moved on into Time Spiral Block and all that good stuff, which was amazing. But that said, that was one of the best combos ever. I mean, absolutely. If you're going to have one that gets banned and makes people really pissed off at formats, that's a pretty good option. I'll take it.
Absolutely.
But that is our top 10 two-card combos. You'll see them on the screen right now for your review. Take a look at my list, Aaron's list, Rubin's top 10, and we want to hear from you about what card we did not talk about, or card combos, rather, that we did not talk about, and we'll select our favorite to win a $50 gift certificate to CoolStuffInc.com. But before we go, I want to thank my co-hosts. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Rubin.
Thank you.
We're going to move on here to our final slide. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsor, CardHoarder.com, my co-hosts, Aaron Campbell and Rubin Bressler. You guys for watching, and hope you support us at Patreon.com/MagicMikes. Visit our website at MagicMikesPodcast.com that exists thanks to our Patreon supporters. Or follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe, do everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online at Twitch.tv/MagicMikes, on Twitter at MagicMikesCast, on Reddit at Reddit.com/r/MagicMikes, and on Facebook at Facebook.com/MagicMikes. Talk to us privately at MagicMikesPodcast@gmail.com. Follow the audio-only podcast at magicmikespodcast.libsyn.com, or find us on iTunes, or join us here next week for another top 10 episode of Magic Mikes. Good night, everybody.